Hello everyone watching on YouTube and listening on Spotify. It's another episode of NRG Insights. For those who don't know or are new to listening, this is a podcast for the mortgage industry, whether that be lending, broking, or kind of ancillary products around the mortgage market. And we speak to influential people in the market who can add a bit of value, basically, who hopefully have things to tell you that will kind of resonate with you. Like I said, all across the industry, we've got some very interesting people on. Today we have Tanya Elmaz from Together on, who is the Director of Intermediaries. How's it going?
It's going really well. It's nice to be introduced as somebody of influence, so thank you for that.
I mean, that's important, isn't it? You know, we've all got to be influencers nowadays, otherwise what's our worth?
Indeed.
So, Tanya, tell me about your financial services journey, so how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, it's a good starting question. So I've been in the industry 20 plus years. Started off in Bradford and Bingley Mortgage Express, running a call centre. So that was my first introduction to brokers. And really liked the aspect of problem solving with brokers, but also had then and still have now the personality for sales. So I quite fancied a sales role, so switched over to a sales role within Bradford and Bingley to be a BDM. And that's really when my sales journey evolved in the financial services. Mortgage Express was a specialist lender for buy-to-lets. So I've always been in specialist lending, never high street. So I was with Mortgage Express for 10 years, cut my teeth there on their buy-to-let product, and then found my way to Together for the last 10 years. Sort of broadening the horizon on a wider offering of products, so all specialists. And so
are you covering everything at Together then? Are you covering all the products just...
Absolutely. So Together offer regulated and unregulated. So I cover the commercial aspect, which is buy-to-lets, bridging, commercial term, and the regulated side, which is normal mortgages, straightforward mortgages, second charges, regulated bridging. I also am responsible for the originations of the club and network, so that's a different cohort of brokers as well. So we cover the full plethora, and I've just worked my way from BDM to roving underwriter to manager to head of sales to where I am now. Not quite at the top of the tree, but close. Close to that. Yeah, so for the last 2.5 years, been in my current role, so that's 10 years at Together. So it's been a really interesting journey, but I've always been in specialist, so that's my sort of area of expertise or my mastermind topic, really.
Yeah, and what have you seen? I mean, we'll start with the last 10 years, and we've got 20 years, obviously, with loads of changes, but changes-wise, how have you seen the market kind of evolve from next to no one, really? We're Together one of the kind of the only people to what we have now with, 240 odd, probably a few less than now, given last year, but 240 odd lenders in that market. How have you seen it? Yeah.
Well, it's good to have lots of lenders. You're right that the scope is quite vast, but everybody's got something slightly different to add to the offer. We've got lots of challenger banks that are offering, but specialist is a different sort of a different offering entirely. We have seen a lot of change. So when I first entered the business, brokers would talk to me about not really being in the specialist lending environment, not really wanting to be in that cohort of borrowing, possibly not understanding it, possibly mixing it up solely with adverse. That was sort of a topic I would always get. I'd always have a trick question with brokers, and I'd say to them when I met them, what do you know about Together? And they'd say, oh, you do adverse lending, don't you? And I'd say, only 3% of what we do is adverse lending. There's a whole other 97% I need to tell you about. So that's the story 10 years ago. Now, completely different story. And significantly, the change has come, I think, in the last 3 to 4 years. Where
that's through necessity, right? Because the resi market was stuck and they needed to make some money.
Absolutely. With the diversifying borrowing needs, specialist is kind of not as specialist as it used to be. A broker that had not a one-trick pony, but if you're only offering one type of product to one cohort, you've got to be sensible, diversify your offering. You've got to be thinking about your earning potential and your networking, and you've got to be able to provide more solutions for the people that are coming knocking on your door. Because if you say no as a broker, another broker is going to be able to say yes. So you have to be able to understand what the solutions are. Whether you want to offer them or not is up to you, but certainly the change that I've seen, just going back to your question, is that from, oh no, I don't do specialists 10 years ago, to 5 years ago, oh, let me have a think about it, to knocking on my door now to say, I need to know about specialists because I need to diversify my offering. So actually a massive change, Marcus, in that sort of shift and that focus.
Yeah. And how's that been? What are the challenges of that been? Because obviously education must be one of the big things, right? Because you can't just go from resi to being an expert commercial broker. How have you adapted to that challenge of kind of thousands more people trying to get into that market?
Yeah, and it is the responsibility of lenders like Together and those that are in that specialist space to educate brokers. It's not easy. So brokers have got two options. They've got the option of accessing a packager who has got expertise in everything that they can get their hands on, or educating themselves and using the lenders to educate them. So that might be attending expos, that might be listening to podcasts, getting on webinars, calling up the BDM, getting them in your office to help you understand exactly what it's about. But, brokers will find that lenders are really interested in educating. So, a lot of what we do is educating, awareness, broadening our horizons. We produce a market report twice a year, one on the commercial market, one on the residential market, which gives phenomenal insights with research as to where the opportunities lie, what markets they lie in, what sectors they lie in, what brokers need to keep their eye on moving forward. So really there's a lot of information that we provide and lenders provide. We've got our website. I mean, I could go on forever. Educating is one of our sort of favourite topics. Well, we like to talk salespeople, don't we?
Yeah.
So it's one of our interests. But again, it's a two-way relationship. So, brokers
want to learn as well, right?
Yeah, they've got to want to learn. And if a broker doesn't know, there's no harm in not knowing, because you may not as a broker want to get into every single minute area of the specialist lending market, but you need to access a packager or some other master broker or some other way, and a club that you can actually funnel what you need, because there's lots of people.
Even then, do you not think that they should be like learning from the packagers or the master brokers, rather than just going, oh, it's not really my thing. I think broking, I don't want to be disparaging, it's 50% of my business. I think that broking was relatively easy for a short space of time on the resi side of things. Money was cheap. If you've been in 8 years, you probably haven't seen any tough bits until you've had to diversify. So I don't think it's the bad thing that they've actually gone, right, we do get paid relatively well. We do have to start learning some new stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think you to get better, you've got to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to broaden your horizons. You just got to think about it from your pocket perspective, but also from a customer's perspective. The customer does not want to come to you to look for borrowing and you say, I can't help you. That's probably the worst thing that you can say to a customer. You want to be able to give the options. Brokers can utilise packages in whatever way they want. So it can be try them once, see how they handle a commercial term, see how they handle a semi-commercial or a bridge, figure it out, watch 1, 2, 3 times, then try on their own. There's so many options that the brokers can take on board. But I think the most positive change is the mindset to, I don't need to know about specialists, to,
I need to know.
Can you help me? Yeah, absolutely.
It was a little bit, we went through the same thing with life insurance, where people weren't really bothered about selling it, and then we weren't making as much money on resi, and then they realised that actually it's half your business, not only for consumer duty, but even before that, where it's just the right thing to do, right? You need to make sure people are protected. Again, it came from probably a position of ease in the background that we couldn't be bothered to do it. They didn't realize it wasn't part of the sale, and now it's just exactly the same for commercial, right? That it has to be part. No one is vanilla anymore. People have got other things going on in their lives, and they need a broker, a full broker.
Absolutely, because there's so many. For example, if we just take buy-to-let as one sector, so buy-to-let used to be a lot more straightforward. You'd buy a 2 or 3, 4-bedroom house, you'd rent it out on an AST, decent yields. You're doing all right. Okay, it's a little bit different now. So, you know, you might want to diversify into buying a semi-commercial property, or you might want to do HMOs. You need to look at ways as an investor that your yield is going to be improved. And so your broker needs to support you with what type of options. And really, a HMO with a buy-to-let shouldn't actually be that specialist, or limited company with a buy-to-let shouldn't really fall into specialist. But these things do fall into specialist. So, yeah, you're right. If you've been vanilla for a long time, you need to dip your toe out of that vanilla mold.
I think it's also about the value add thing, right? Funny enough, I was talking about value add with someone recently on the podcast. Oh, they're actually ex-Bradford Bingley as well. It's Louisa Sedgwick. Louisa at Paragon. Excuse me.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I know Louisa.
Yeah. We were just saying, like, how else do you add value? You know, what else do you do? And it's the same for brokers. And I think it's really relevant for them. Hopefully, it'll resonate with people that are here, that are listening, which is the majority of the listeners are from the broking side of things. Is that, like, you can sell a mortgage, right? You're not giving away a different product to someone else, and no one's got magic products. But that value add of being able to sit someone down and saying, have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? The same as in my environment and your environment. We need to think about how we can add value just to that basic thing that we do. Because it's the same with recruitment. Everyone could probably do my job at a certain standard. But actually, the value add you give by the consultative stuff, and the same as you guys, you know, when you can actually go to a broker and say, have you thought X, Y, Z? And that broker can pass that on. That's what makes a good broker. That's where the customer looks and goes, God, I've got way more for my money. And people don't moan about being charged for that because you're giving so much more.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying there, it sort of resonates with the whole service proposition, doesn't it? Customers are more sophisticated than they ever were in all sectors, in all fields. Borrowers are smarter to options that are available. And therefore brokers need to give that value add with that little bit extra. You're absolutely right. Lots of borrowers and investors, you know, lead with decisions around rates and pricing, but there's an equal amount, I think, that lead with service, proposition, the whole value add proposition from a broker. So the more that you can provide thought leadership, information, extra support for your customers and your borrowers, the more they're going to refer you, come back to you. You know, you never know when one fairly small residential transaction is going to turn into, you know, a portfolio of buy-to-let transactions. You never know when that's.
You know what? A broker that we both know, actually, funny said that to me before. He got his 160 grand mortgage. It was a referral from someone, and it was like, you know, he does some big ticket stuff. He probably writes like £1 million a year. He's one of the best, most consistent brokers I know. And his biggest client came from that 160 grand. And you think, what if you hadn't done it? What if you didn't seem like the authority that you are when he's testing you on a 160 grand mortgage, when he's got £24 million property portfolio? You know, it's nuts,
absolutely. And together we are quite well known for the small loans and the big ones and the ones in the middle. We don't know when we're going to get a call for a £50,000 loan or a £8 million loan. But you know, every loan is treated with the right respect, because again, you just don't know where they're going to lead to. But every customer deserves that same service, that same proposition, and that same value add approach, really. So yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's talk about it from a broker perspective. Obviously, we've gone through what they need to be better. But we've had I can't get my words out now. We've had a tough couple of years, right? No one is really. I mean, unless you follow everyone's LinkedIn and you look at their case studies, that are probably just inquiries, but they're just.
No, they're real. Excuse me, they're real.
Not you guys. I'm talking about brokers, but there's no. I joke, but it's been tough, right? And everyone's in the same boat. And you must have this the same as me, where it's quite insular. So people are like, why are they doing so well and we're not? And we spend so much of our time going, look, just chill out. Like, everyone's in the same boat. But number one, do you have to do that side of things? And number two, do you see us coming out of it now? Because we're seeing some really positive signs, and hopefully you feel it. We're a good barometer for the market, but none better than the guys lending the money, right?
Yeah, it has been tough. However, it's been tough if you've been in one area and you've put all the eggs in one basket. You know, so we've kind of covered that off with diversifying.
Yeah. I mean, not so much tough. Like, even if you diversify, not so much tough. Like, we've had deals. It's the same for our market last year. There was just nothing was easy. Do you know what? I think brokers felt that last year. Like, everything was just a bit tougher. Do you know, everything, we could still make money. It didn't flow as well, perhaps. But
yeah. And I think part of that was interest rate changes, making individuals, investors kind of stop start. You know, those quick decisions were more like, oh, let me think about this, or 3 months, or until the election, or until the next interest rate increase or decrease now is what we're waiting for. So there's some of that, isn't there, with borrowers where they're not as urgent. Decisions are not being made as urgently as before. I think it's long been reported, probably in the last 3 or 4 years, that we're still seeing delays with solicitors and the legal side of things. We've had lots of discussions on, you know, the progress of technology within that field and the pace at which they go. You know, we're talking about land registry and the legal all of that stuff is quite...
It's so antiquated though, isn't it? That side of the business, when things are moving so quickly with tech, and you look at the legal system and the way that's done, it's just, you know, it's still pen and paper and snail mail. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at least it's not fax me, because that's what it was when I was first buying property.
We still want the original in the post before we can,
Yeah, exactly.
But we've got biometrics. It's nuts.
I know exactly. So all of that has sort of compounded those sort of delays. So you're right, it has been tough, but we are coming through it because we're phenomenally experienced with moulding to the scenario that we've got. And, you know, we are looking at this year at positive economic outlook. We're waiting for a couple of interest rate cuts. Some say 3,
February.
Some say 4. Yeah, I've got my money on February as well.
Yeah. I've literally got my money on it. My fixed rate's just finished.
Excellent, good. Well, we're waiting for that, you know, and if you're old enough, if you're 40 plus, then you're used to an environment where sort of 5% interest rate was kind of
the average, isn't it? That's the average over the last however many years. Even if we look at that great big dip of free money.
Absolutely. And so anything now is going to be a positive move. But again, I think that we are coming out of it. But again, I think brokers, lenders, all of us, even in your own sort of pocket at home, we need to still be smart about efficiencies, how we operate. You know, cost consciousness is always a thing that should be exercised.
Yeah.
So that's something I think we'll continue to see as we get more and more used to our interest rate environment and how we navigate our way through it.
Good. That's enough about the market. Enough about what we're expecting. Let's delve into a bit of your career, if that's good. So obviously 20 years in the game, seen a lot of changes, especially on the commercial side. How have you found that? I mean, we'll talk about women in financial services, so I don't feel I'm fully qualified. But we're talking just generally in a sales environment. And what have you seen in regards to the changes in the sales environment? Is it dramatically changed, or have you always done what you always do?
It's changed. I don't know if it's dramatically changed. It's an interesting topic, isn't it? Because obviously, as a woman, I always get asked this question. But I don't lead with that, and I think for myself in my career, I have, and I'm not saying other people do. I'm going to be controversial here, Marcus. But I've never led with wanting to be a woman in financial services and have my voice.
I have this problem with bringing it up because you're fantastic at what you do. If I then go women in financial services, it kind of I don't want to take away from the fact that you're incredible with brokers, irrelevant of. Do you know what I mean?
That's exactly it. So even from 20 years ago, let alone the last 10 years, I've always pitched my stall at being outstanding at what I do.
Yeah.
Knowledge-wise, information-wise, the way I transact with brokers, my industry knowledge, my ability to lead a team, and then being a woman comes after. For me,
but you are also an advocate for women in financial services. I've seen some of the things you've posted. You know, you're an advocate for it, but you're right. You don't want it to be your whole persona, but like it's a tightrope for the privileged 40-year-old white straight males trying to push it because I'm with you, and I especially see it in people who have been in it longer because you didn't have female awards, and you didn't have people like networking events you got to go to. You just had to push through any gender barriers there were because you were good at your job. And now I don't want to muddy the water for people who have been really successful. Because we are more aware of it now.
Absolutely, there has been changes, but like I say, I've always led with being the best at my job rather than anything else, and I think that's the best thing for any individual to do in whatever diverse group that you're in. Just be kick ass at your job.
It'd be great. Yeah.
And that should be plenty. That said, women do need allies like yourself and like other strong men and powerful individuals, influential individuals, to sometimes hold that door open in scenarios where it's not quite there. I'm the type of character that can kick the door open.
Yeah.
Sometimes that door needs to be a little bit ajar itself, and there needs to be allies in the room to help support. But
I think that allies. I always feel like it, because it's not my place. And people say, well, if you're not talking about it, then no one's talking about it. But I also feel that, not like I'm taking the piss, but it's just not my place. You know what I mean? Like because I work with 7 women, so it's never been a thing for me. And because it's not a thing, I feel like it's a bit false that I join in. But because I work with 7 really strong, powerful saleswomen, it probably is a thing. You know what I mean? It's consciously, I've subconsciously just done that but I haven't employed them because they're women, by the way. It's because they're brilliant at their job, and also they have strong sales ability and empathy. Where we live in a world where we have to be resilient and empathetic, and that is a female trait, whether men like it or not. Be really good at sales and actually have some empathy is generally not a male trait. So it's
interesting. It's interesting you say that. Allyship is important. You know, and that's on both sides of the fence in any area. You're right. And it's interesting you say about empathy, because I agree with you. I have a fair few female sales colleagues in my team, and my leadership team is predominantly female as well. And again, it's not because they're female. It's because they have the ability to be empathetic, to lead, prioritise, network. You know, just all the skills that you're not waving at me, or you put the
my light went out then. Sorry.
You're absolutely right. That empathy is really important for sales. But it has changed for women, but and I think there still needs to be some continued change. But the best thing that women can do for themselves possibly is put away that imposter syndrome that we just seem to have naturally. Just, grapple with it, grab it, do something, understand it and get behind it. Men have imposter syndrome as well.
I was going to say that's a common, like if you see if you think of insecurities, like you go to a gym full of men. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not insecure isn't a female trait. It's everyone. I think one gender kind of hides it well or covers it up, but
and that's definitely something that individuals need to get behind. Understand where your imposter syndrome is coming from. Appreciate that we've all got it at some point, be it a 1% imposter syndrome on a Monday, right up to 100% on a Tuesday. It shows up in everybody. Adopt strategies that you can improve how you deal with that. Because, we've all got it, and a lot of it is unfounded. And I really do believe in fake it until you make it and get over your imposter syndrome. Because, if you have the desire to progress in any role, then you just need to articulate that, bring that forward, work on it, and have that internal conversation with yourself to put your imposter in its place.
Do you know what? Talking of imposter syndrome, it's really relevant to me this week because I've booked to go to MIPIM for the first time. And MIPIM,
for the first time? Okay.
Yeah, first time. And in my head, like I've always felt like I've never really not deserved to be there, but I feel a bit impostery because, it's for the brokers and the lenders and the lawyers. And I'm like, it's the first year where I thought, actually, these are my people. Everyone I speak to asks why I'm not there. Yeah. But I've got that thing where, it's not really a recruiter's place, or it's not really, I don't sell myself. It's the same as if I go to London every week. It was actually my wife that said, you do that every week. You go to trade shows and no one asks you why you're there. You know what I mean? Or, you go and visit people, or you go for lunches, or you go see all the lenders and that kind of thing. And it's the first year where I've gone, oh no, do you know what? I do deserve to be there. But it's still in the back of my mind because I'm turning up on my own and it's, people are used to being there. But hopefully that resonates with people, because I consider myself a very confident person, but you can still put yourself in a situation where you're like, God, am I, is this for me? So I completely get that, this especially resonates this week.
We can't kid ourselves that imposter syndrome doesn't show up. No matter who you are, even if you're a CEO, there's going to be an instance where you've got, a millisecond of insecurity or you're unsure about a scenario. Yeah. That's absolutely, but you're owning it. And I think as well articulating it, because I saw a really interesting post I won't say who it is, but I saw a really interesting post on LinkedIn, because I do read LinkedIn posts, all the details, not all day, but
Not
I do
all of them, yeah.
have a look. And it was a gentleman who was talking about how the year had ended with him grappling imposter syndrome for the entire year. He'd had good success by the end of the year, but it was his journey about how he grappled with it. And I was actually really pleased to see a bloke
Talking about it.
Talking about it for the first time, because it's something that you don't hear many blokes talk about, do you? You hear us ladies talking about it. That was quite, thanks for calling it out yourself, because I think that's something that is important, is talking about it.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem with it because it's a big thing. You know what I mean? And also, like, I'm a big lump of a man. I'm not like, I'm not a wallflower, so it doesn't bother me if I'm nervous about something. I let people know. I always think the first time I went into a boardroom of, say, like C-suite of directors in a lender, and they'll ask me what my opinion is on something, and I'm thinking, shit, am I qualified to give these people? But what I have done is spoke to hundreds of other businesses, so I am actually, that one individual thing, I am actually more qualified to speak about it, rather than the whole situation where that blows your mind, where you're like, I haven't come through the ranks of anything. So
absolutely.
The small thing is the thing you're really good at is not the whole situation. I think you need to get that out of your head. Like MIPIM as a whole thing, for instance, is a massive thing. But I can give advice on how to grow businesses, because that's what I'm surrounded by businesses that grow. Yeah,
and listen, you can network. I mean, we can all, doesn't matter what skills you have or haven't got, we can all network. Network's important. So at the very least, that's what you need to bring to the table. Just talking about the boardroom, because it's funny you say that the first time you go in a boardroom. Because my observation the first time I was in a boardroom was, I look different to everybody. I sound different to everybody. So as you can hear, I'm a Londoner, and I speak at work how I speak in my normal life. I don't put on any airs and graces. And it took me a little while as well to go, shall I try and be like everybody in this boardroom? And then I was like, no, I'll just be me, thank you very much. But it did take me a little while to...
But that's also why you're there, right? That's why you're invited to it, not to be a robot of someone else. You got to that position. I'm the same. I think I don't speak as posh as my clients, or, we probably... my education, I know these guys are better
educated. Neither of us do, Marcus. Neither of us do.
No. They can't ask me what university I went to. I'm like, don't go. But at the same time, the reason you're there is because of the stuff you've done, right? So they don't want you to be them. And also, they're not thinking like that either. It's all in your head. Most of it,
Absolutely. Back to that imposter syndrome. So you just got to own it and appreciate the diversity that all individuals bring to the boardroom, to MIPIM, to a conversation with a broker, any scenario you're in, the diversity that you can bring is absolutely.
And it's that value add again, isn't it? It's the thing I'm adding value on. The thing that they like me to be there for is because I can actually add value. So you got to keep that prevalent. So again, like I said before, you've built your way up through the ranks from like that kind of BDM. You're still a BDM at heart, right? You still love going out to see your brokers. That's your crux, even though you're further up the ladder.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you can take sales out of salespeople, true salespeople. We're always doing a deal, looking at a transaction. And together it's a really fun approach when you are looking at a transaction, because we can build solutions, break down scenarios, offer different ways of transacting. So it's not exactly like Lego, but you can break down the scenarios and build it back up the way that works best for the customer and the broker. That's always a fun. You can never take that out of salespeople. And that together, we're all quite aggressively salespeople in respect of the underwriters are thinking, how can I do more and better for my broker? In operations, we're thinking, how can we make our procedures and processes slicker so that we can be quicker for our brokers? Everybody's thinking from the same sort of point of view. Do
you think that's a tier down because you're I'll big them up too much, but like the geniuses at the top, right? Together have got some incredible people at the top. Don't you, like you said then, like even like the commercial awareness, if you like, of underwriters as opposed to why they can't do a deal. Do you think that is a tiered down management sort of where the structure is, because they've built an incredible team there, and it's not it's not ridiculous to suggest it's because of the guys that started it.
Yeah, I think you're right. And one of your previous podcasts, because I do listen to those as well, you spoke about culture, didn't you? And I think the culture together is exactly what you've just described. So, when you come together, despite the fact that we've got 800 employees, it's got a family feel, which is quite hard, but quite remarkable in respect of we're all in it together. We're all very collaborative. We all speak our minds. Feedback is flying around. We're all protective of our area of business, but at the same time working with everybody else. And we do look at transactions from the perspective of, would I lend this money? If it was coming out of my pocket, does this make sense? Sometimes we say no to transactions that don't make sense to the customer. It might make sense to us as a lender. It might make sense to the broker. But if it doesn't make profitable sense to the customer, so we're always got the customer at the heart of everything that we do. But you're right. I think it's the culture that we breed it together, top down, that makes us in that way. And because we are so solution led, and also because we've got the freedom at Together to build the solution, you'll never hear anybody at Together to saying, no, we can't do that. It would take a lot to say no, because we'll say, oh, can we do it like this? Can we do it like that? We can offer you, we give different scenarios. For us to get to a no, we've gone through blood, sweat and tears before we went.
I love that as well about the culture, because I think there's too much woolliness around culture at the moment. I know you mentioned family, which we can debate at another time. I actually put on LinkedIn yesterday, someone put there's no such thing as being like a family, and I said we are, because we don't listen to each other, we talk over each other, and two of them are definitely sleeping together. So I put it on the guy that owns Netflix's thing. But sorry, the culture side of things, the fact that can we do this deal should be at the heart, because we are in to make money. I know it's customer focused, but commercial awareness of doing it. We've got too fluffy with ping pong tables and bean bags, and actually we get our culture is about getting money out the door, but making sure the customer's looked after. That's the number one.
Absolutely. And our vision is is to help people achieve their property ambitions. So that might be your first time buyer on a right to buy type of scenario, right up to your complex high net worth individual buying their 10th £3 million commercial property, and anything in between. And so that is at the heart of what we do when we're looking at a transaction. We are making people's property ambitions come true. We're a cog in that wheel, so it's really, really important to us. Absolutely. Yeah.
Amazing. Good. And like I said, culture, I talk about it all the time, but it's especially for small businesses, right? Once you've nailed it, you've kind of you can't keep on top of it. And actually it's probably harder when you get to your size, because it's a bit fragmented when it comes to, you'll have subcultures in your business, because it's just the nature of the size of your business. But actually culture is the one thing that you can advise anyone to look at and make sure, culture before sales.
I think if you don't have a culture right in a business, then you got a real uphill struggle, because the strength of any good business is the strength of its people. And Together, and in our world, in sales and in specialist lending, it's all about relationships. So you need to, individuals at work need to be confident, happy in the right space in order for them to deliver that space moving forward. So that culture and how you embed it and how you listen to your staff is really, really important. We have regular surveys at Together where we listen to staff. We're very open. How I am talking to you is how, we share a lot of things. There's no blocks on sharing feedback or anything like that, and I think that's the best way. And
we were talking about this earlier on about transparency being really important, because no one ever you want to be able to know why your little cog is important to the business, don't you? So you feel part of it, and if you don't know, if you're insular and you just do that bit and don't worry about that bit, then you never really understand. You never really appreciate what the business does as a unit.
Yeah, absolutely, and we call that Together playing your part. And we really, we've worked on how our objectives have changed from having sort of 10 objectives to sort of aligning it down to a lot less, so that you can really focus on, and you can really see how you can play your part. But you're right, there's no good in just knowing the here and now what you're doing. You want to know How is this contributing to next year, to the strategic plans of the business, to the 5-year plan? What's my 10-year career? I work quite significantly with individuals on PDPs. It's one of my little obsessions.
Yeah.
And part of having a plan for your own career is knowing the journey that your company or industry is going on, so that you can help map that career out. If you don't know what is occurring next year and the year after, you can't be fully invested. You can't have a plan yourself. And if you can't have a plan yourself about where you're going, you probably can't achieve your smaller goals. So for me, it's all connected.
Let's touch on that actually. So say people have to do their own professional development type plans. If you're a small brokerage, or it's something, beginning of the year, something we're all thinking about how we can kind of progress. What are the things you look for? What do you ask people that kind of help them think about what it is, where they need to be, how they're going to get there, and to achieve the things they want? What's your kind of starting point, and where do you go with it?
Yeah, it's really interesting, because the first thing that people struggle with is the answer to that question: where do I want to go? Because sometimes people say, well, I want to develop and I'm not quite sure how. So that's the first thing that individuals need to get their head around, is to make sure that they have got access to different departments in their company, or if you're a broker and you're in residential and there's a buy-to-let section, you need to shadow those people or understand it. You just need to understand the options that are available to you. And I would start with looking at the job descriptions of the positions or jobs that you want to access, and have a look at the skills. You have to be able to have a look at the skills that you've got objectively. Yep. So that requires feedback from other people. Yeah. And then you have to look at the skills that you need to develop, be it a broker with broader skill sets or an individual that works for a lender. And you have to be honest and say, okay, those are the skills that I need to work on. And then you need to go and get help with working on those skills. So that could be in the form of training, in the form of reading, in the form of listening, in the form of shadowing. But you need to map out your journey on how you will improve yourself with those skills, and then how you're going to demonstrate it as well, because you have to be telling people that you want to progress or you want to change. There's no good in being a resi broker and just not telling anyone you want to get into specialist.
Yeah, then you
got to start articulating it. The same as in your job. If you want to do something different or more, you've got to articulate it. Again, probably going back to that allyship point, where you've got to have people on board who know. And you've got to be patient as well, because these things don't happen overnight. You can't just look at development, have a 4-week plan, and then boom, it happens.
Do you see this a bit more now? This is quite a close question, because I do. But in the younger generation, there is this element of instant gratification. So telling someone a 5-year plan, like my kids couldn't write down a 5-year plan. I mean, they'd be maybe too young to make an example. They're teenagers, but the element of 5-year plan, work really hard at this and you'll get good, and where actually they've grown up in an instant gratification world where you get everything right now. Do you think that's going to prove trickier as we start to go? Have you started to see that through the generations that you're starting to train?
Yeah, definitely it is trickier. Definitely I am seeing it. So I read a statistic recently that the average 20-year-old's attention span is less than a minute. And that's like that's the scrolling effect, isn't it?
Yeah, I've got a 9-year-old that can't watch films because they're not quick enough. So you just get bored. They'll be like, this you've been on for 2 minutes. You go, this is enough. I've seen it. Like, it's nuts. You'll get to the finish.
Absolutely. So there's that. That's the instant gratification you speak of, where we want things really quickly. And then as well, I recently watched a documentary on working from home. That's an interesting topic, isn't it? Because the evidence in the documentary, well, it was looking at, does this make businesses more productive or less? Like, what is the actual evidence rather than the opinion?
Yeah. That's what we need, is more data on this, because we're all so anecdotal on it. Like, I hate it, but it's understandable.
Well, I can tell you what the evidence from Panorama displayed, and it was that there is some benefit in hybrid working, 3 or 4 days a week in the office if you're about 30 plus. And the reason for that is that you've done your time with the sitting next to, the shadowing, the learning, the training, the mentoring, understanding relationships, understanding how offices work. You've done perhaps 10 years of that, and so you can take yourself out of that mold and then dip into it once or twice, two or three times a week.
I have a really strong opinion on that side of things as well, and I will say it later, but it's so selfish of us to think we're complete, let's just work from home, because it is destroying the next guys. So you all have to come in the office. We don't, because we've done it, but someone sat in an office and taught me. I think next to like the 40 plus, it's really, really selfish of brokers to go, because I could do my job from home. Realistically, if I didn't have to train anyone, I'm motivated, I could do it. Yeah. But it's so selfish, we have a massive skills gap. So I will let you finish. Sorry, I'll jump in. I just think like people our age are going, well, there's no benefit to me being in an office, but the benefit is the next generation that we are leaving behind.
Absolutely. And I think that lots of young people, and this is just my personal opinion, are really confused on this matter because they have a slight entitlement to thinking they should be able to work from home. And at the same time, it's sad because you do your learning at work with other people, asking questions and watching and copying.
And you grow as a person as well around other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're losing that.
Absolutely. If you're not getting yourself in an office, 4 to 5 days a week, you are missing out. And also, progression happens in those conversations when you're in the office. They do not happen on a random email.
I would love to see the data on people that get promoted that work from home. Because I imagine, and this is again anecdotal, I don't know the data on it, I imagine it's a lot less than people are visible to their managers who are sat in the office. Because if I want to progress, I've got to be visible, right? I've got to show you what I can do. And I'm not sure I can do that on a Zoom or from you seeing my data on a spreadsheet.
Absolutely. So, listen, life is always about balance. So a little bit of home working in the right role at the right time, all of that is absolutely fine. No one's talking about being inflexible with these things, but particularly at Together, we have a work from the office environment, and it's buzzy and it's electric and everyone's learning. And
also, it's sales, right? You need to turn around and ask someone, don't you? I'll go like, I've got this. It's a commercial broker, he's XYZ, but he can't fit here, doesn't fit there, he loves doing that. And someone could turn around to me and go, I've spoken to so-and-so. And that's a 5-minute conversation that could take half an hour on a Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. So working from the office is really important. Not only is it important for individuals, it's important for industry, for commerce, for our town centres, well-being. There's so many stories about people that have thought working from home was a good idea and a year in have well-being issues because they might go a day or two without physically speaking to somebody and it's really impacting them. So
we're tribal people, aren't we? We need to be around our tribes, and I don't think it's a coincidence, and I know people would blame COVID for it, but we haven't snapped out the other side of COVID that we're coming into the loneliest generation that's ever been, yet they're desperate to work from home on their own. It's like being depressed, when they can't see it, and you're just constantly like, oh, I'm fine. But it's, and we won't see that for years, but it's tough, isn't it?
That's why I say it's sad for young people who might slightly misunderstand the bigger picture of working from home. And us oldies, we're just there, still in the office, aren't we? We like it.
5 days a week,
we like it.
But I love being in the office as well. Sometimes it is useful working from home when I need to head down, admin, whatever it is. But it doesn't benefit us all being separated. And even for, like I say, from the mental health side of things. We're salespeople, right? So we need to be around people anyway. You have a mouth to yourself.
We like talking, so working from home is a nightmare.
There's only so many phone calls I can make in a day, say the same jokes. So talk to me about that, actually. So obviously you've trained people, you see people come through the ranks. What kind of, and I will leave, I appreciate I said 40 minutes and I've gone well over it, but what qualities do you look for in that, maybe not next generation, just next group of people who are coming through? What do you think when again that person is going to be a good leader, or that person is going to be an exceptional salesperson? What are the qualities that you see that you think are really relevant to building people up within a sales environment?
So one has to be initiative. I'm really big on this. I have just like a natural coaching style, which is a nightmare for anybody that works for me, because any question they ask me, I'm like, I don't know. You know the answer. Come back and tell me. What do you think?
That's a proper coach, isn't it? 'Cause I'm a nightmare at that. I'm a really bad coach. I think I'm an okay leader. I'm a bad coach because I just think it's easy to give you the answer. And I know I am stifling your career by giving you the answer, but it's a time thing, you know. So to have that quality is actually really, really good to help people's careers. It just doesn't feel like it when you tell them, what do you think?
No, they don't like it, but you have to practice, because it's natural when you know so much and you can be so helpful to just give the answer.
Yeah.
So you have to practice at that one. But I would say initiative is a number one. If I can see initiative in someone, that they actually want to find the answer themselves anyway, then that is amazing. Drive is really important. Actually being organised is another one as well, because sales is not an easy job.
You don't often liken the organisational skills and sales skills together. You're right. Like, it is important. That's why you have really good admin.
Yeah. So if you are organised with your time and your priorities, and you can understand how to navigate, because in a sales job you've got to do 101 things sometimes at once.
It's an infinite checklist, isn't it? You never finish.
Yeah. And if you let them overwhelm you, it will affect the way that you work, and it will affect your health. So you've got to be able to prioritise, organise yourself, understand what you need to do. I think strategic thinking is my new one of the last 2 or 3 years, because when you meet an individual who can think strategically, then that's a winning combination. When they can think about not just what they're doing, but how it impacts other customers, other departments, the industry, the wider picture. If you can think wider holistically, that is definitely a winner.
Do you think they're like the future leaders, not just future sales, because they understand?
Yeah.
I don't know. And again, I had this conversation earlier on. That's not for everyone, right? Some people are the world's best plodders, and they're really good at their job, and they don't really care, if they're honest, why the business is what it is, and why we do this and why we do that. But the future leaders are the guys that look at it and want to get an understanding of, this is what the business does. This is why we do it. This is why the business needs it.
Absolutely.
They're the winners.
Yeah,
and leaders is better.
Absolutely. And if you have got those leadership traits, that strategic thinking, then another thing that's important is to understand how to influence people and drive people, to collaborate with people, because you can't do it on your own. You've always got to do it with a team, and you've got to know about delegating as well. Those skills come after.
Yeah. Delegating is not like a natural thing for most people, is it? Because we're all a bit controlling in some aspect, because we know that what we do affects us. Affects our careers, affects our money, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. My team will tell you I'm really good at
it. You've been doing it a long time, haven't you? You're good. I bet it's very difficult at the beginning. Well, I think once you start delegating and you see the impact it has on someone else doing something that has more time than you on it, is potentially better than you at it, you would do it more often. But it's the initial thing of the releasing of stuff initially.
You have to be able to relinquish the attachment that you have to the outcome of the task that you have delegated. So translated, what that means is, if you delegate something and it goes wrong, you can't worry about it, because you taught that person or that team an amazing skill, how to handle something when it goes wrong, how to do something better, all of that, and they will learn so much quicker by making a mistake. You've just propelled their career massively. So
it's like the coaching thing, isn't it? Like the coaching thing. Even though if you give that little bit extra time to someone for them to cock it up rather than you just tell them what to do, you're progressing. And that honestly is a skill I haven't learned yet, but it's a skill that I know I'm conscious of the fact I need to do it. Because coaching someone is the way you move someone on in their career, isn't it? Rather than just keep going, do that.
Yeah, and sometimes it really frustrates people. So, I have calls with people where they say, what do you think I should do with this? I'm like, it's your job. You got to tell me. Yeah. And by the way, if you mess this up, I've got your back.
Yeah. That's the other thing, isn't it? It's having that trust with each other, and you know that you can cock up. That is the one, but I think that maybe, as much as I'm not on the good coaching side, the one thing people know in this office is that if we cock up, as long as you tell everyone, it's not the end of the world. No one's going to get chastised for stuff. But Yeah, obviously lots of things to learn. That's been really useful, Tanya. I really appreciate your time today. If anyone wants to get hold of you, talk to you about Together, talk to you about just generally, some of the stuff that if it resonates with people, what's the best way of speaking to you?
You can reach out to me on LinkedIn. My details are on there. You can reach out to me. You can find my email address and phone number on togethermoney.com website as well. Any which way you want to. You might even find me on Facebook and Instagram, but I'm not on there too much.
Amazing. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And obviously all of Tanya's socials will be on our socials. So as we market this, people can get in contact. But thank you. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We spent a long time trying to get it together, didn't we? So I appreciate your
you too.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone listening and watching. I appreciate your time. Cheers, Tanya.
Thank you.